Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence. Best of the best is an understatement today. I have the best. If you are a real estate agent in Northeast Florida, you have not closed a loan with Landmark Title. As a buyer or seller, you haven't sold many homes yet. My guest today is the man behind it all. I do not believe there is a title company in the region that has the consistent reputation of Landmark Title. My guest is expanding his title company in the region at a rapid pace. Their reputation is second to none. They have created a foundation to give back to the community as well, which we'll talk about. Let's welcome today the Heekin of Heekin Law and Landmark Title. David Heekin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you coming by today, and I know you are a superstar. As I was, the many people in the office that already knew you, many of the real estate agents that are doing anything, and I want to really dig deep today into how you have created Landmark Title and the consistent quality customer service. I assume with the realtors, I'm doing it from the lending side, but I know stuff that I refer to you is always done very well by your staff, and I definitely want to dig into that. But let's talk about you first.
Thanks.
Where's David from?
I'm born and raised right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Went to Bishop Kenny High School and then University of Florida for 8 wonderful years. Got a undergrad in finance and then law and MBA. It was a 4-year degree. Mm-hmm. And the really the best, I think, part of that degree was the MBA. I use that on a daily basis. I mean, the law degree is great, obviously, but a lot of what I do is business related. Running the title company, running
Sure.
the day to day now.
Sure. Was the title company something in the family? Is this something?
Law is sort of the family business. My dad's a commercial real estate attorney, kind of a lone wolf guy, represents a lot of big developers in town, shopping center developers and whatnot. So I kind of grew up surrounded by real estate developers and whatnot. And coming out of law school, actually the law firm in town that I had taken a job with sort of blew up. A couple of the named partners died. It was an old boutique commercial real estate firm. Mm-hmm. And half the firm went to a mega firm in town. The other half went to another mega firm in town. Both called me and said, your offer's good here. And I just didn't want to go to either of those firms. I didn't want to wind up at a big
Right.
law firm. I have a big problem with authority. I would end up telling a partner off within the first week. It wouldn't have been good. So I actually came out of law school with no job and was thinking about what I was going to do. And residential real estate closings was something kind of on my radar, something I could kind of teach myself. Especially back in the day, it used to be a lot easier. And we can talk about how it's changed over 20 years because it's just incredible. But
Right.
I was coming out and had nothing to do. My dad said, well, one of my clients is just wrapping up a 60-unit oceanfront tower in Jacksonville Beach, Oceana. Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't want to do these closings. So I popped in, bought a little program called Power Closer for $400, and that exported the checks to QuickBooks. And I did it all. I processed the loan. I closed it. I post-closed it. So
Right.
It was a great level of experience that I got earlier in my career, and then for about the first 2 years, I was the only employee. It was just me. So I answered the phone, I processed it, I closed it, I post-closed it. So I know this business front and back, inside and out, whereas a lot of attorneys or title company owners don't. Some of them were never involved in it, or some of them have only been involved in it from the attorney standpoint and don't know what it's like really down in the trenches doing the work to get the
I
file ready.
have seen that, especially going to some of the law offices and doing a closing. The attorney comes in and it's like he hasn't even seen this paperwork yet.
Right.
And he doesn't know actually the paperwork like the back of your hand, mm-hmm. Like your closers do, the better closers in town, mm-hmm. and so forth. And, to kind of jump a little bit, because I want to talk about how great your employees are, the closing person is really the last person that touches mm-hmm. the buyer in that transaction, and who the real estate agent is putting that trust into mm-hmm. is very important, because everybody's nervous. Oh, we're finally here. There may have been issues. There's some anxiety, but that closer can really.
Mm-hmm. And we have the best closers in the business, I think. And had a great breakfast this morning with another well-known attorney in town who we might end up hiring. And same thing, we have very high standards. And, like you said, our closers are very, very, when we talk about our 4 uniques, what makes us unique as a company as closers, we say we're knowledgeable, we're reliable, we're accessible,
Right.
and it's having the attorneys that have that experience. William Lee, for example, you talked about, William
Yep.
very well.
Yep.
phenomenal attorney, but Will can also get down and get in our closing software and crank out a CD if he has to. I mean, he knows.
I used to get him all the time. It could be 10 o'clock at night, and 15 minutes later, he's sending me a pre-CD so I can get some initial disclosures out.
And you might have a lot of attorneys who say, gosh, Tracy, I can't help you. That's going to have to wait till tomorrow, like
exactly.
In the office. But we our closers, we want them well-trained in our closing software so that they can get in there and do some basic things to help out when they need to.
Right. There's one thing I've learned in 15 years in the lending industry, and having worked for two of the largest lenders. They're online lenders, but having a sense of urgency in this business is actually very important. And there's timings. Now, obviously, it takes 30, 45 days to close a deal. Well, yeah, it does. But at the entry level, when that contract is signed, you've hopefully already talked to a lender and they've already pre-qualified you. For me to get initial loan docs out and get that process started right away, they're excited. They're ready to sign those loan docs so we can order the appraisal and then the order title and all that jazz. And consistency, as we talked about earlier, a couple title companies that have great reputations like yourself in town, but there's so many like, we'll get to it. I'll get to tomorrow. Yeah. It's like, dude.
We have a 4-hour turn time is our goal or less. If you request a pre-CD, hey, contract just came in, I've got to disclose today, you're going to get that CD today.
Yeah.
And
every day on the front end, I mean, because there's always, not always, but there bumps in the road happen. And if you get started early enough, the bump in the road is no big deal. You close on time. But every day we lose on the front end is multiple days on the back end. That's what we always were taught, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, TRID has added a lot of complexity, as you know. How long have you been doing this, Tracy?
2005.
2005. Okay, so you're
16 years in September.
So you remember the days where if you were going to do a closing, the title company that morning had to get an overnight package from the lender and a cashier's check. Because they didn't even start doing wires till about 05, 06.
Right.
And they weren't electronically delivering closing packages by email till about that time or a little bit later. But I remember when, you had a closing set for a Tuesday, and that Tuesday morning, if the Wells Fargo package didn't show up with a cashier's check, we just called the parties and said, hey, we're not closing today. It didn't come.
Right.
So do it again tomorrow. But it's such a need it now world that we're in now, and it is just talk about how the industry's changed in the 20 years I've been doing it.
Yep.
It is, if somebody sends you an email and you don't respond in an hour, they're like, why haven't you responded to my email? And, back then we were still faxing.
Yes.
We were faxing back and forth in 2005. That's how I was communicating with lenders. We were faxing them the title commitment. Faxing the CPL.
We still have in our system for the fax number.
Yeah, we just redoing our email signatures, and we're talking about simplifying them. And I said, can we take the fax number off the email signature? I mean, it's just hardly ever used anymore.
Right. So let's go. So you 2 years by yourself. Are you landmark title at this time, or are you just Heekin Law?
I'm still closing under Heekin Law. My first employee was a free UNF intern back when you could still get free UNF interns. And then I made him my first paid employee probably 6 months later, and then slowly started expanding. I didn't hire my first attorney, Alan Allman, brought him on in 2012. Will Lee came on in 2013.
Right.
Now we've got about a dozen attorneys, but it was sort of slow ramping up in terms of, bringing on a lot of staff. And again, TRID has just really impacted, like it has in your industry, the number of people that it takes to do a loan.
Yes.
The number of people it takes to do a closing, the touches. And that's where a lot of my competitors don't keep up, is they're just terribly understaffed. And you see it on your end when you're trying to get a CD out of them, or you're trying to get a closing schedule, and they say we can't do.
Or a last minute one. I've got one right now with you guys actually, and it was a little fumble on our part, but I said to the agent, we have landmark title on the other side, so no, they're already ready, and they have the staff that'll whip out that final closing disclosure. He's already wired the money. We'll be all right.
Yeah, we're up to about 80 total employees, and that's what it takes to run a successful, well-run, customer service focused title company, and we're just constantly in hiring mode. We're always looking for good talent.
With the amount of production going on right now, it is. I imagine you can't. It's hard to even keep good employees.
We don't have a problem with that. We have such a solid culture. We rarely lose an employee, and if we did, it's usually an employee that we didn't mind losing. Because they're at the point where they're getting, hey, you're falling short.
Right.
Meeting this core value, you need to raise the bar a little bit, and a lot of times people just kind of they take care of the problem themselves. They check out. They say, "Hey, this isn't the place for me," and they move on.
We were talking before the show, so we want to start at the beginning and what we got going now. So where was I assume initially were you like more or less working from home?
No. I always had an office. In fact, where our sort of headquarters are in Southside Boulevard, I was in a little 1,200 square foot space almost right away. I did those 60 or so closings for my dad's client, and I did them at my dad's office. And then I was like, I got to get out of here because I was working with my dad. I love him, but I had to go. So went over and rented that space and was there for a couple years. Moved down to Perimeter Park for a few years, and then moved back down to where we are in Southside Boulevard. And as we were talking before the show, we're in 4 buildings there now. So,
so I want everyone to understand the culture that is important about Landmark Title. And those who don't know anything about Landmark Title and are listening, those who do know understand what I'm talking about. You were telling us now, really, this is a real showcase that you're a new office that you're putting up. It sounds you're obviously excited about it. But it's all part of the culture and listening to your employees and keeping those good employees. Tell us about this new office. Where is it opening up? When should we expect it? And tell us all the goodies. It sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's a 2-story, only about a 20-year-old building in very, very good shape. It is at JTB and I-95. If you know where they built the new Maserati dealership, it's right behind that on Financial Way. When you
good
walk
name
in,
of the street.
Oh yeah. When
Good.
you walk in on the first floor of the building, to your right, we're going to have 6 or 8 conference rooms. We're going to have all the attorney closers down there as well. Big, welcoming waiting room. And then on the left, we've got a 100-agent training room that we're putting in. We're putting in a cafeteria that'll serve breakfast and lunch for the employees. We've got a gym, showers, business development, and marketing are all on the first floor, and then we have all the operations up on the second floor. And this building gives us room to grow, and not only as we expand our footprint in Northeast Florida, which we're not done doing. There's certainly locations in Northeast Florida. We just opened in Fernandina Beach. We want to get down to Palm Coast. We want to be in Mandarin. We'll need another office on the west side soon. We're in Fleming Island, but we'll need a second one. But as we have big plans to grow statewide, we want to be in every major market within the next 5 years. We're already in Palm Beach and Clearwater.
Major market of Florida?
Every major market in the state of Florida. We don't see any reason to expand outside the state of Florida. This is where it's at. Low taxes. Everybody's moving here.
Right.
There's plenty of opportunity in our backyard. We don't need to go looking around in other states.
Right.
But we want to be in every major market. So Tampa, Orlando, Tallahassee, Gainesville, all of them. So like I said, we're in Palm Beach, and we're in West Palm Beach and Clearwater right now. And as we expand throughout the state, all I need in these cities is a closer and a receptionist, because we'll do all the processing
right here at the corporate office.
That's right, because we can control the quality.
So you have 80 employees right now.
Right.
How many initially will be there at that office?
We've got other offices like our Durban office with Willie and his crew. He's got about 10 down there. So of those 80, probably about 55
initially
to 60 will initially be over there. And then we think we'll be at 100 employees. If not by the end of next year, certainly by the end of 2023, we'll have to be at that number to keep pace with our growth. A lot of that's in operations. It's processing, post-closing, accounting. As you know, just what people don't see behind the scenes is that file that's this thick at the end of closing.
Right.
So we'll keep all the operations centralized. So we want a place where employees come and they feel at home, and relaxed, because the reality is you spend more time at work than you spend at home, at least of the waking hours. And so we want people to come and it's a sort of a lifestyle place. They come, we've got a cafeteria, they can get a nice breakfast, a good lunch, they can grab a workout on a Peloton during lunch, grab a wrap, go back upstairs. As far as the realtor training room, you've got most of your real estate companies are going virtual. Yep. And if they're not, they're going to small offices. They just don't have a place where they can meet with all their agents. So now they've got a place they can come in, they can reserve that room, they can do their monthly or quarterly or whatever meetings they do.
So imagine you're probably gonna have some top-notch technology in there.
Oh yeah, we'll have,
because in the media world, some of these big corporations, you go in and you're like wowed, and then you go in another one and you got the hand projector or whatever you're trying to do it. You make that real professional plug and play.
We'll
They're going to want to make home there.
Jaguar away games.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be massive screens, and we'll actually have 2 rooms like that. One a little bit smaller, and then the training room will be connected to what I'm calling sort of a realtor lounge. Okay, couches, nice relaxed area, because we have a lot of real estate agents that come for a closing and then say, I don't want to go all the way back to my side of town. I've got an inspection an hour. Can I chill out here in your front
right.
lobby and just use your Wi-Fi. Sure, now it's, hey, head on down to the lounge. We got couches, you got Wi-Fi, we got a wireless printer if you need to use it, connected to the cafeteria, grab a sandwich. So we really want to make it a fun place where people can come and hang out, especially because so many people are going virtual.
And I think you haven't said it, but I know it's in your mind. It is every podcast I'm listening to. I've had some almost a common theme with every single person that has been on the show is relationship building. And I know you and your staff, the ideology, building these relationships with the realtors. What expand on that for a little bit on the culture, the ideology that you put out to your employees, and why are they so good at what they do?
It all starts with having a vision, and if you don't have a vision as a company and then clearly share your vision with your employees and get that buy-in, then you've got people rowing in different directions, and so years ago we got very organized. We've always had our core values. They weren't always written down. They weren't always conveyed well to the employees, but we have 5 core values that we're very serious about. We hire on them, we reward based on them, we fire based on them, but it's white glove customer service is number 1, fanatical attention to detail number 2, having a proactive problem-solving mindset is 3, continuous improvement is 4, and then teamwork to make the dream work. And those 5, our employees absolutely embrace them. And again, if they don't, those are the employees that usually check themselves out because hey, I don't have fanatical attention to detail. Doesn't mean you're not a bad person, but this isn't the place for you because you got to dot the I's and cross the T's, or you end up having a closing go sideways. So our core focus that's clearly conveyed is helping real estate agents succeed and buyers and sellers close with confidence. And every one of our employees comes to work every day and they know this is what I'm coming to do. So that's an important part, having the vision laid out and then executing, having a team that can execute. And our operations team, Angela Williams, our director of operations, is phenomenal. And then the rest of the leadership team is William Lee and Nikki Causey. Nikki's our vice president of marketing and business development.
Right.
Nikki was the 5th employee I hired back in 2005, so she's been with me forever. And our marketing business development department is just fantastic. Will's in charge of training the closers, including attorneys. We have about 15 or 16 closers that are in the conference rooms doing the closing. Most are attorneys. I'd say, like I said, about 11 or 12 are attorneys, 5 or 6 are non-attorneys. But Will's in charge of that education component, making sure that they're delivering quality closings, that they're able to answer questions, get back to the real estate agents in a timely manner, and help them out.
Where are you? Because I imagine with the growth that we're having, the amount of closings, and obviously, the end of the month, like we know next week's going to be crazy. As it is at every title company and every lender trying to get stuff done by the end of the month. Where are you finding these or are you oftentimes leaving positions open, and because it sounds like you just don't throw a hot body in there?
No, you can't. We actually, if I have my way, everybody that we hire will be completely not in the title business, because the problem we found over the years hiring people that were in the title business is they come often with very bad habits.
Interesting.
And we don't like that. So the problem, the predicament of that is it takes a solid year to train someone to be a processor. We start them out as a processing assistant for as long as they need to, and then we move them up and actually put them through processor school. I mean, I have 3 full-time trainers, and we're about to have a 4th. And these are just people internally who we've said, you're the best of the best. I'm going to pull you out of production. I'm going to make you a trainer. So we invest very heavily, both internally and externally, in training our staff. But it does take a very long time. I'm not kidding when I say we're in constant hiring mode, because we need to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
But
you're not reacting. You're being proactive. And this is such high-level stuff right here. I mean, I'm honored to have you on the podcast because I listen to some very popular podcasts and have a guest of your caliber on there, to have that vision and understand it and see it through. Yeah. I think too many, it's very common, people open their own business and it's reactive. All of a sudden there's a load. Now I'm trying to find good employees. You're already foreseeing what's going on. You're involved in the predictions. Obviously, I think you would agree. Northeast Florida is probably for the next.
Down.
Yeah. Nassau County, which is why you've opened a Fernandina office, is going to be, to me, the next explosion.
That Fleming Island, Green Cove Springs area is
that,
with the expressway going in. There's just a lot going on.
I have said that so many times.
It's coming.
All the way down the Palatka.
Yep.
All the way down the Palatka.
So we're in constant hiring mode, and we bring them in, we train them up, and they graduate. And there's a lot of opportunity to move up in our company. But to your point, we don't do crisis management anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of our team. We don't. So the last Friday of the month, we might have 100 or more closings throughout all of our offices, and the planes will run on time. Now, there are hiccups because we'll get a loan package late sometimes, or somebody shows up late for a closing.
Yep.
That's fine, but we'll have all of our conferences, all 12 conference rooms will be going all day long. And they're just
no one's allowed to take the last day of the month off.
Nobody takes the last day of the month off. But, I'm very proud of our team because it is a busy day, that last day of the month, especially if it falls on a Friday. But man,
or Halloween.
We crush it. And it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
I did have those years where it was crisis management, where I didn't have the help and we weren't as organized as we are now. But
so step back for a minute. You talked about hiring people without any experience in title. Obviously, someone hopefully you're going to interview has good work ethic and integrity and so forth. So what would be some like basic steps? They enter as an assistant. They're taking that training. What is kind of the progression for them, I guess, short of being an attorney, I guess, in your office, right?
Yeah. Well, what our hiring process is we will post on Indeed, but we typically go fishing. We go find a resume. And then the first step of our hiring process is 2 roughly 12-minute assessments that we're going to send you. One is a behavioral assessment that's going to measure things like introversion, extroversion.
This is why he wouldn't hire me. I wouldn't pass that one. Go ahead.
Well, the beauty of our different positions is, you have, let's just take the behavioral for a minute. It's going to measure on 4 scales. Like I said, introversion, extroversion, independence versus collaborative, how good you are with details versus how sort of relaxed you are with the rules, that sort of things. Right. And you fall on that scale, and there's no right or wrong answer for anybody, but I'm not going to hire somebody who's a screaming high extrovert to be a processor because they're going to want to spend all day on the phone and not get any work done.
Right.
But I don't want somebody who's a super low introvert because they're not going to want to interact with the realtor and the. So we really have a.
How long have you been using this?
We've been it's called Predictive Index. We've been using Predictive Index for about 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Okay. And it's a fantastic program. I'd recommend it to any small business owner. It costs me around $5,000 or $6,000 a year, and unlimited, give as many assessments as I want. So we've got the behavioral, and I know that, hey, this particular pattern, if you're in this range, you're going to be a good processor. From a behavioral standpoint, you're not.
Now, is that by your experience or just information that you're getting from the industry?
That's by mine. That's
okay.
But people, we took our best processors when we started on this program, and we gave them this assessment after the fact, and you kind of see they all kind of fall into a little bit of a range.
Right.
And what it means is you're going to go to work and you're going to be yourself. You're not going to go to work and have to fight who you are behaviorally to try to fit your position, because that's exhausting.
It's
and
stressful.
You didn't have a good day.
Yeah.
So, but a closer's behavioral model is going to be different than a processor's, right? Necessarily, I want an extrovert. I want somebody who's really outgoing.
Right.
Doing in that closing table, talking to people. So, and then the other assessment we give them is a 12-minute cognitive assessment, just a general cognitive. How fast are you going to learn a new skill? Because you have to. We've got to cut off, and I won't say what it is, but we won't hire under that cognitive assessment because that's going to tell me it's going to take me too long to train you. I've got to get somebody in there who we can train relatively quickly.
This is actually very interesting. We've tipped into this a little bit because now I'm thinking of your attorneys and the ones that I know, like William and some few others that I've been to their closings, and they either already have this test because you've hired them in the last 4 years,
right,
or they already fall into it because, like I said, we were talking earlier that closer is very important, and most people find the average attorney to not really have, we'd say, a great personality. Mm-hmm. So your attorneys fall more under your.
Our first core value is white glove customer service, and that's for every employee that's important, from our receptionists to our processing assistants, processors, all the way to closers. I mean, having that customer service is so important. You've all been to that dry closing where it's sign here.
You're hearing the paper and the pen hit the table. It's too quiet.
Everybody's just kind of, when was this thing going to be over?
Yeah, looking at each other, playing on their phone.
And Landmark's closers are, I'm not saying putting on a show, but we're having fun. We're asking questions. We're interacting. We're getting the closing done at a good pace. We like to say fast, fun, and flawless. That's our three. If we didn't hit fast, fun, and flawless for a real estate closing, we've got a problem.
Fast, fun, and flawless. I love it.
I love alliteration. Close with confidence.
When I replay this when it comes out next Tuesday, I'm gonna listen to take some of that because you said a couple others. Your five core values there. We gotta write those down. Yeah. Those are excellent.
So so the closer, the actual closing is so important because this is a big deal for the buyer and the seller, especially for the buyer. Okay, the sellers, a lot of times they come in, they do their pre-sign, they want to go, wire me my funds. It's not, the days of everybody sitting around the conference table are gone.
Right.
It was already going away before COVID. People were just busy. But then after COVID, I'd say 95% of our closings are separate. Seller zooms in and close, or they're busy, and we send somebody to them to close. That's the beauty of having 20 notaries. If a seller can't get out to see us, we'll say, no problem, we'll come to your house at night, we'll come to your office, we'll sign you up, whatever it takes. Right. But it's a big deal for the buyer, and they want it made a big deal out of.
Yep.
So,
I was focusing on there, but the question I had next, if you're looking as a real estate agent here on Facebook Live, or maybe might listen to the podcast, why should they bring their next client to you? Obviously, because the show is what they're going to be surprised with. But if you can express to them in very much more or less a sales pitch, what are they going to experience, and why is it? And ultimately, really, because I think this is the important thing. Why is it important to bring them to Landmark to really, seal the deal with that client, and hopefully give them that wow experience, no matter what happened prior to that day of closing, to seal the deal, and then make that client look back and go, hey, this realtor knows what they're doing.
Yeah. We, again, our core focus, helping real estate agents succeed and buyers and sellers close with confidence. And that's what we do. We look at every real estate agent that closes with us as our partner, and we want to be their partner. We're there for them, whether they have a question on a closing that we're handling or not. They know they can call us. If they need an occupancy agreement drafted, or they need an escrow agreement drafted, and they're stuck at a title company that doesn't have an attorney and won't do it, no problem. Give us a call. We're here to help whatever you need. So you've
kind of thought through all, because you're experienced, 20 years doing it, every possible thing that could go wrong. Sounds like you've got the tools in the tool chest. And somebody can get it done.
And we've got the highly trained staff, especially our closers and attorneys, that can jump in and do it. But everybody in our office is just, like I said, we invest so heavily in training, whatever the position. So, our value proposition is being there for real estate agents whenever they need us. We always say we work realtor hours. And like you said, you'll email Will Lee at night, 10 o'clock at night, hey, Will, I need this fast. If Will's awake, he's going to crank it out for you.
I didn't expect it till the morning. I figured at 7, 8 o'clock he'll check in and get to me. And all of a sudden it's back in my email.
We tell realtors that all the time. We work your hours.
Yeah.
So we're nights and weekends. If you need us, we're there. That's just the way it is.
Yes.
And then we make the experience so memorable for the buyers and sellers. We just white glove customer service. We're taking care of them the whole way. It's a real concierge type treatment. Real estate agents know that they can drop a contract off for us. They don't have to babysit. Did you order the survey? Did you order the estoppel? They know they don't have to worry about those things. They know those are getting done. We've got a 68, I think it is, point process for a purchase closing. In other words, 68 individual tasks on every purchase closing, at least, that get done. And we're very task-based, and our software that we use is very task-based, and our processors come in and they print their task list for the day. They know exactly what they need to do in each file. There's no guessing. What do I need to do today?
Right.
It's all right there for them. When we set up a file, we put in 2 dates. Date it's open, date it closes. Every one of those 68 tasks is tied to one of those 2 dates.
So the kind of more of an industry question and just curiosity on my side, because I think, most people don't understand ultimately what you're doing. The average real estate agent doesn't. I know you're doing, clearing the title, making sure we're the first lien holder as a lender and that sort of thing. But in your industry, where are the major failures, and what have you already implemented to make sure those are just those are stamped out right away.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I'm saying?
the biggest thing that you can do is as much as you can, you systematize and process whatever you're doing. You try to break it down in its simplest components. So we do that. So the software we use is a fairly new software called Qualia. There are, I don't know how many mortgage software there are, but there's hundreds of real estate settlement software programs.
Right.
When we knew that we needed to get off the one we were on called Closer's Choice, which is very popular in Northeast Florida, but it just is not scalable for us as we grow. And when we knew we needed to get off Closer's Choice, I heavily researched this. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. We went with Qualia. We had an internal person who learned this program because it's a great program, but they didn't send a trainer out here. So we had to build it out, but it's very task-based. And like I said, we set up when a new contract comes in, if the effective date is today, that date is entered, and then the closing date, let's say they say it's going to be August 23rd, we enter August 23rd, and then we've got 68 tasks that fall on one of those 2 dates. Let's do this within 3 days of this date or 3 days before the closing date. And
you're getting a report every morning and hold on, this one's out of whack. We need to get this back online.
So Angela Williams, our director of operations, gets an overdue task report on every processor and processing assistant every day. We can see ones that are running into trouble and deploy somebody to help them if they're falling a little bit behind.
Sure.
So as much as you can, you take the human error element out of the closing process. So by doing this, hey, if we have to order this survey and it has to be in 10 days before the closing date, I need to order it about 20 days before the closing date. That's when that task is already in to do.
Right.
So
that is so, and from my experience in the lending world, I've worked for 4 different lenders, or 3 lenders in the bank. And if there's one thing that can screw it up is that report that you're able to jump into, your staff is able to jump into and look at every loan that's in process and know where it's at, what it needs, and making sure it's staying on that pace. That is so important. As the realtor, the biggest thing obviously you're concerned with after the contract is signed is closing on time. And that huge thing. I always thought you were going to get more technical, like, hey, but actually when you mention that software, I'm like, that's exactly it.
It's a huge help. And then, every day Angela Williams, who is our director of operations, she meets with what she calls her SEAL team, which is 4 individuals that are there to deploy that morning if there's a problem. Hey, Nicole's out sick. Something happened. She got in a car wreck. I need you to get down to Fleming Island and cover her desk for the day.
Right.
So it's all about being well-staffed and have people to deploy to help out, because most of my competitors don't have that. If Jill's out sick, they're just scrambling to cover Jill's desk, and that file's sitting there until she gets back, even if it was a planned vacation. So part of, making sure that we deliver the level of service that we want to deliver means we're overstaffed. And that's my goal, is to always be overstaffed. Does it affect the bottom line a little bit? Yeah, but everybody's quality of life's a lot better. And, you guys, like you said earlier, there's a handful of title companies in town, only a handful, that when you see, you're like, okay, it's one of these, I'm not going to have to babysit. We're lucky to be on that list.
Exactly.
But think about it. There's hundreds of title companies in town, and there's only a handful that are that like you point out, are well run.
Yeah, exactly. I think the vision of being overstaffed, and having, I'm 51 years old. I've worked in retail stores. I've done other things. Been in this industry for 15 years, and when you're understaffed, everybody's on stress. There's always a fire to be put out, and eventually someone just says, I've had enough of it.
Yep.
When you're I'm going to use the phrase young and dumb, but when you're young and don't know any better, you're like, let's go. But when you have the proper staff, your employees can then excel in what they're doing versus running around trying to put a fire out all the time.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not here to tell you that I've run my title company this well since 2001.
Right.
It was a lot of bumps, and it was a lot of learning, and me growing and being understaffed, and live in that stress and live in crisis management every day, before finally saying something's got to change, and learning to get more organized. I've got a business coach that helps us, that does a great job, and it's good to not be living like that anymore. But when I
you can go home at a regular hour.
Yeah.
You're not going, oh my God, is so and so going to get those loans closed tomorrow over there?
With rare exception, all of our employees are out of the house by 6 or out of the office by 6, and most by 5 or 5:30. With rare exception, there's days you got to stay late. Something came, but for the most part, yeah. And it didn't used to be like that. I had plenty of 9, 10 o'clock nights, and I don't want to do that anymore.
So it seems you do a lot for your employees. You got this new facility going up that sounds pretty exciting. We're gonna have to go over there and have lunch when you get the cook all going there. You have a cook already lined up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. What do you do personally, and then what do you share with your employees as far as I know you must do some personal development. Are you a big book reader or podcast guy or?
Yeah, I'm big into business books. I really enjoy listening to business books and business biographies of other leaders and what they've done and their management style. And I'd say the two biggest books that impacted me, one is called E-Myth Revisited, and that's all about systematizing and processes and basically, you set up the process and then you plug the people.
Right.
Okay. And then the other one's Traction. It's a book by Gino Wickman. It's really a holistic A to Z how to run a small business. And Traction and E-Myth have probably been the two biggest influences on my life in terms of business books.
So how do you share? Because obviously you got a lot. You got I don't know, what'd you say? Dozen attorneys, 16 attorneys, or something like that. So obviously they're very educated, but that doesn't mean they're continuing to do that. How do you create that culture to move your people forward and improving themselves and sharing what you do?
Yeah, the attorneys know that one of the 5 core values is continuous improvement, and they know that they're expected to make sure that they are constantly learning. So we have access to a lot of continuing education through our title underwriters, so we're constantly watching those. We meet as a closer group once a month. Most of our departments meet weekly. I'd say all of them do, actually, except for the closers. We meet once a month, but when we do, if something's come up that somebody ran into, they're going to share it with everybody. We'll go around the table and say, hey, I want to let you guys know about this. It's kind of a unique thing happened in my closing. So we're educating each other. And it's great to have people to bounce things off of. If somebody needs a form for something, we got a closer email group, and it's going out, hey, I got to draft a sewer line easement, and I'm going through this property, and it's branching off to 3. Does anybody have a form? And you've got a lot of people there just really pulling together, helping each other out.
Right. The vision that you have, everything. I mean, I think anybody listening to this podcast, watching on Facebook Live, you weren't just born with a lot of these ideas. This is stuff that you, with your after hours, reading a book a month or week or whatever your schedule is, constantly improving and stealing ideas from other successful people who are putting it into a book or putting it on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think, we talk about the industry. I know here as loan officers, and I've had some coaches on, the personal development is so important if you want to grow. And I think you're a great example of someone, the visions you just put out there. I think anyone would say, wow, I would love to work with Landmark Title. David just has this vision of what he's doing, and obviously the properly staffed thing, I think, is probably a big help right there. Yeah, but you're moving forward, and now at such a rapid pace because Florida's moving at such a rapid pace right now.
Right. We have a lot of we do our own municipal lien searches in house. Very few title companies do their own municipal lien searches. I'd like to start a surveying company because we're ordering 150 to 200 surveys a month sometimes.
Right.
And we're having survey problems. So one thing that we're rolling out within the next few weeks is a portability department to help sellers, because when sellers go to sell, if their market value of their house with the property appraiser is way lower than it should be, you can actually go to the property appraiser and ask them to raise it and give them proof through comps and a purchase contract that your market value should go up. Now that amount that you're porting or taking with you, you take that with you, and for the rest of your life, as long as you're living in the state of Florida, you're saving that on taxes. So we've got sellers.
Simple nugget for a seller right there.
Simple.
Most people don't know one title company from another. But right there, the man's trying to save you some money right there.
And we're talking, in some cases, it's thousands of dollars a year that we're going to save people.
Wow.
So we're going to roll that out. We're just finishing tweaking it, sort of our application, make it a simple process. We're actually not going to charge any money up front to the seller. It's going to be one of those, hey, if we save you money, we get a % of what we save you. But if we don't save you anything, you don't owe us any money.
I'm going to share you a survey story that I just had last month. It was over in Clay County. It was an older home, didn't have a survey for whatever reason. All the local companies that this agent knew were all booked up, couldn't get it done in time. And we more or less had a little bit of a flexibility. I mean, it wasn't like we had to close this particular day because actually the renter was buying the house. They already lived there. So it wasn't that urgent. But they were like, they couldn't even give a date when they could do it.
It's crazy.
So they went online, ordered it. And this online company, however they worked, there was no communication. And we're like, hey, is it coming in tomorrow? When are you going to do it? So we can kind of like set a closing date so we can adjust to it. And it's this whole thing. So
I want to have a survey company just so that we can move things around and shuffle and say, hey, stop what you guys are doing. I need these 5 today. Get out of those. These ones can wait. So for us to be able to control, because with the weather delays and just general, I mean, surveyors are, man, they're backed up.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
Yeah.
So we're looking for that. I mean, crazy looking, but I've had conversation with a couple licensed surveyors, and so we'll see.
Plenty of business there. I would do that tomorrow.
It's a couple hundred a month at least that we're ordering.
Yeah, keep them very busy.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go. I call this my 2-minute warning.
Okay.
Because I officiate football, and so I call them. A lot of people call it speed round, or just some simple questions. But this one's the most important one to me, and for those listening. But the question's to you: is it more important who you know or what you know?
Oh man, I think it's always more important what you know than who you know.
Is that right?
I do, because if you're
an attorney, that's why he thinks that way.
You'll eventually rise to the top in your field if you're smart enough and you know what you're doing. And otherwise, it's the old fake it till you make it, right?
I wouldn't necessarily call it fake it till you make it, because you gotta know something. But there's definitely. Obviously you must have learned some stuff from your dad.
Pick one.
I'd argue with you from the simple. You must have learned something from your dad. He was an attorney.
He's a great resource.
Yeah, he was. And got you started there. But really, what you started was who you knew, right?
That is true. See, they're both great.
Yeah,
I had to pick one. But without a doubt, I got a agency license from First American Title because of who my dad was. Okay, I may have gotten one, but it would have been a lot more of a struggle. I mean, This was back when it was also easier to get an agency license. They don't give them out like they used to. You got personal financial, what's your net worth, show me your experience. But certainly, First American was able to take a chance on me after only about a year of doing this, because my dad was one of their top agents in town. So yes, who you know is also important.
And I would also, as I continue to give kudos out to Landmark, your closing, Nikki, William, and others, they have created, their own little superstardoms in their offices, and who and I'm sure agents name drop them all the time in conversations because of who they are. Now it's what they know, what makes them a superstar, going back, just to circle back to my relationship thing. So you're out on the town. Would you go to a Jumbo Shrimp game or the Jaguars?
Jaguars.
Travel bucket list.
I just got back from Glacier. I love the outdoors. I love the national parks. I'd like to go to the Grand Canyon maybe next summer. But I want to spend some significant time in Europe while I can still enjoy it one of these days. So Italy, Ireland, France, Germany. I'd like to. I don't know when I'm going to get across the pond. I've never been across the pond, but I know Italy especially, I think, is just beautiful. I'd love to spend a significant amount of time there.
All of Europe and so forth. I for years now, I've been following, probably a decade. There's a travel company called Band of Brothers, and it goes through all the World War II, circles like the 1st Airborne Division landing at Normandy and following that whole track, and they have all these different things. And of course, as years go by, the people that are there to tell the stories are passing away and so forth. But yeah, the same type of thing, and follow that. Yeah, would be really thing. All right, here's my last question. If you could sit on a park bench for 1 hour, talk to anyone, past or present, ever Genghis Khan and forward, who would that be?
Oh man, so I think the easy answer, Jesus Christ. I would love to spend an hour picking the brain, but if I had to pick somebody of like the more modern era American, I'd love to pick Ben Franklin's brain. I think Ben Franklin was brilliant founder, and,
Yes.
and was in large part him and Jefferson for giving us the document that we have today. So much so that I named my firstborn Benjamin. And they said, "You got a family name?" I said, "No, I love Ben Franklin." So,
love it.
yeah,
that is. I would agree. I would agree with that. That would Ben Franklin. I don't know if it would be number one, but definitely be on the list because I had the same vision. What he the things and the stories you've heard and the of course our founding fathers all together. I mean how the division. Everyone says that the document is dead. We should be involved, but a lot of the things we deal with today. Yeah, it doesn't say the internet in there, but you can evolve from those, especially obviously the Bill of Rights and so forth. So
we got a big First Amendment issue going on right now with the social media that's got to get worked out.
Yeah,
a lot of censoring going on there, but got to keep that thing alive.
Well, I think my faith is in the American people, and that really there's a silent majority like you and I that's there, and we go to work every day and we continue doing what we're doing, and these people will slowly fall out over time and bring us back around. Ryan Serhant, do you watch his show?
I don't.
You don't watch Ryan Serhant? You know who he is, though. No, you don't.
Do
right?
I?
$1 Million Listing, New York.
No, I don't. I'm not a TV.
You don't
guy.
listen to You don't watch Bravo, obviously.
Football.
Your wife doesn't watch Housewives.
No. I know the show.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar.
Well, then obviously you haven't read his book, which I've got right here. Okay. It's a really easy. You're probably going to laugh a little bit, but this is actually his second book.
Okay.
Big Money Energy. But we're Daniel and I are trying to work him to actually come down here and speak because he's so popular.
That would be awesome.
And I'm actually ordering some more books because this is one of my last ones. But it's a real easy read. This is your gift for coming here today.
Thank you, Tracy.
No problem. But Dave, thank you for coming by.
Thank you, bud.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right.